Hello, I'm Janna, and welcome back to the Crafty Corner. This week, we have got a new theme over at the Funkie Junkie Inspiration Ave blog. This week, we are focusing on all things Tim Holtz and Stampers Anonymous. We are creating our projects featuring a Tim Holtz stamp. You too can join the creative fun, and this little challenge is open from November 30th through December 13th. So if you would like to join the creative fun, just hashtag your products with hashtag the Funkie Junkie. As always, we greatly look forward to seeing all of your fantastic creative makes. Now, for my project today, I'm going to be featuring the stamp set department store. This stamp set is fantastic, the detail is amazing, and I just had to make a Christmas card with it. So if you'd like to see exactly which supplies I'm going to be using, go ahead and pause here. All right, let's head over to the Crafty Corner. Today, we're going to be creating a card using a mixture of stamping and collage. Our foundation is going to be some of the Tim Holtz Ranger Distress white heavy cardstock. And the stamp set that we're going to be featuring today is stamp set CMS 458 Department Store. And we're going to be stamping this lovely wreath. So many details, so many possibilities. So first, before we jump into the stamping, we are going to be collaging on our foundation. And to do that, we're going to be using some of the Idea-ology tiles. These are the perfect size for collaging, so with a little bit of collage medium, we are going to start adding these to our card base. So I've got an open jar of collage medium. It's pretty much used up, so I am going to directly scoop from the jar. Normally I would scoop this out and set it off to the side to avoid contamination, but since it's the end of the jar, we can do a direct scoop. So I'm just going to smear the collage medium all over the card base, and then we will start sticking down the tiles. I absolutely love collaging. It is so relaxing and very freeform. Just playing around with these tiles and deciding which configuration to put them in is one of my favorite parts. So we're just going to continue to add some collage medium to our card base and then start adding some tiles. Okay, so I've got pretty good coverage on here. I don't want too much glue ooze. And I'll just quickly wipe off my hands to get rid of the extra sticky stuff. I already have the tiles in a formation that I like, so I'm just going to kind of start at the bottom and then build my way from there. I'm just loosely putting these down so that I have a pretty good idea of where they are all going, but I'm trying to stay centered on my card. Okay, so we're going to quickly build this section upwards and just make sure everything is lining up. And if I need to move something, that's going to be okay. The collage medium is fairly forgiving, and I do have some time to adjust the pieces. So I'm just trying to keep these all lined up and centered, and then I'm going to go back in with a bit of walnut stain to highlight some of those in-between lines. So far, so good. I'm liking the results on this. Just a couple more to stick down and we will have our base. But I think before I move on to the next step, I will add a second layer of collage medium over the top, just to make sure that everything is going to stay in place. Okay, this can go down here. And the last one goes right here. Okay, pretty easy process, and now I'm just going to give these a little nudge and just make sure everything is lined up. There. Just want to make sure those little corner pieces are meeting nicely. So, just giving it a quick little adjustment. Okay. Let's see, that one's a little bit out of place. Okay, now I'm quite happy with the results. So we're going to take another scoop of Collage Medium and add that over the top. This will also give me a slick surface that my distress crayon will move easily over. Now, while this dries, we will then turn our attention to stamping. Just smooshing that on there, trying to scrape off any extra, and that can go right back into the jar. Also, when this is dry, I'll be able to trim off the little bit of overhang on the back side of the card. Okay, so that has some very good coverage. We're going to set this aside and let it dry, and we'll be back for this in about 6 to 10 minutes. But in the meantime, we have some stamping to do. For stamping, I am going to be bringing in the Tonic Tim Holtz stamping platform. This is going to make our stamping much, much easier. So we're just going to open this up and add our stamp to it. And I'll just move the magnets aside. Okay. Oh my word, the detail on this is so beautiful. Okay, let's get the stamp down, and I need some paper. For my substrate for stamping, I'm using the smooth side of some Distress watercolor cardstock. And I'm using the watercolor cardstock because we're going to be coloring the wreath using some of the Distress pencils. And since those can be water activated, it makes the most sense to work on the watercolor cardstock. So we're just going to put this right here in the corner. I'm going to put this down. Doesn't really matter where I place this because we are going to be cutting out the wreath anyway. So I just want to make sure I've got space for my magnets and can get a nice impression with this. For stamping, we're going to be going in with some Distress Black Archival ink. So I'm just going to move this out of the way, and I'm going to pick up the stamp, and then we will ink it up. Okay. Picking up the stamp, and for inking I am going to be taking the top of the platform off the platform so that I will have better access to inking. Okay, now for inking, we're just going to go ahead and tap this down, and we'll get plenty of ink on here. Now this is just going to be a first layer, and we're going to be coloring directly over the top of the image. So we're going to be doing a second stamped layer to bring back in the detail, because the pencils are definitely going to smudge out a little bit of the detail. But the nice thing about the Tim Holtz double layer technique is that you can do your foundation stamp, do your coloring, and then bring all that wonderful detail back with a second stamping. And if it's not clear enough, you can always stamp again. And the Tim Holtz Tonic platform will keep your stamp in the exact same spot, and nothing's going to wander off on you. Okay, so that's looking like we've got some really good coverage on the stamp. We're going to stamp that down and get our initial first impression. Okay, and stamping with firm pressure. Now this is a big stamp, so I like to work my way all the way around the stamp. That stamp is almost as big as my hand. Okay, and I'm just going to check and see how our stamping went. Ooh, that is perfect for a first layer of our stamping. Okay, so we're going to go in and choose some of the Distress watercolor pencils and choose our palette. So let's take a look at our options. I definitely want a dark green peeled paint. That's going to be a good one. I'll try to turn it like this so we can see which colors we have. Oh, you know, lumberjack on that bow would look amazing. So why not? Let's go ahead and pull in lumberjack Distress Inker. That will look good, and then I can add some highlights on that with another color, perhaps fried brick. Okay, back to the greens. I'm going to want a little highlight color. We can do that with some crushed olive. And I need a deeper green. Rustic Wilderness. That's going to be a good one. What else do I have? No, Peacock Feathers is going to be too blue. Yeah, that should be good. And they've also got some berries on this. Oh, you know what? Maybe I should go for some Twisted Citron. That would bring the holly out. Okay. Good, so I've got that. And I really want another red. Let's see. Which one? Yep, Candied Apple. So that should be a pretty good variety to color with. So I'll just move this out of the way, and I have lumberjack off to the side. We will do that as our last addition for the bow. Oh, and the magnet seems stuck to the bottom of the case. Just put those back, put the pencils off to the side, and we're going to do a little bit of the coloring together, but for the most part I will put it on fast forward. Let's do a piece of the holly and some of the berries. So, as mentioned in a previous Tim Holtz video, when you use the distress colored pencils, it is possible to sharpen them, and the recommended sharpener is the Prismacolor sharpener. This one is great. It has 2 different options for sharpening size, and it gets the pencil to a nice point. So I'll have this off to the side in case I get any dull spots on my pencil. But having that nice sharp point makes it so easy to get into the little detailed spots on stamps. It makes the coloring experience that much more enjoyable. Okay, so we have a couple of the holly pieces covered. Now, why not? Let's do a couple of the berries. And I think after I watercolor these out, I will go back in for a second layer of detail. Oh, that is a much more orange red than I remember. It's interesting. So, another set of berries. Then I will add a couple drops of lumberjack off to the side, and we will also add that to the wreath before I put everything on fast forward. I love how smoothly these go down on the watercolor cardstock. That is absolutely wonderful. It makes coloring so much more enjoyable. Alright, so we need to open up lumberjack, and I'll just do that with the tonic mini snips, and we'll just peel off the plastic. I'm so excited. Lumberjack just arrived this week, so I am super excited to be creating with it. The re-inkers are definitely some of the most useful things. You can drop them into a palette and have that for creation, and you can also use them just taking a little bit out of the dropper and setting on the side if you are doing a very quick project. So just taking the dropper, and I'm just going to put a teeny tiny bit on the side of my media mat. There. Alright, let's see how that color looks on the wreath. So for this, I'm pulling in the Tim Holtz Fine Detailer Water Brush. And absolutely love this. The tip on this is great and easy to use for detail work. And has a nice steady stream of water with no unexpected pooling. Okay, let's tilt the camera down just a little bit so we can see what we're doing. Okay. So I'm going to start right here. That color is great. When people talk about a true red, this is definitely it. And you can see that the candied apple red, it almost looks orange in comparison, which is really neat. Because before, I would have said that was probably the reddest red in the distress line. Okay. So just carefully maneuvering around the ribbon. I'm just going to add the color. Oh my word. That red is so, so gorgeous. Welcome, lumberjack. And I'll probably go in with some fired brick afterwards, and we'll use that to darken up a couple of the shadow parts. So that should be a really nice contrast. You know, I really want aged mahogany now in the colored pencil line. That would be another wonderful red to create with. So hopefully at some point we will see more of the distress colored pencils, and we absolutely need lumberjack in it. It is such a good color. We need more red. Okay, so just finishing up this corner of the bow. We have a little bit left, and then we'll be done with the Distress Re-Inker. And this was just from a teeny tiny drop, and look how much coverage we are getting out of this. This is gorgeous. Okay. Ooh, careful on the corners. There. One last section to go. All right. Our really nice red is now down. So now that we've finished adding lumberjack to our card, let's go ahead and put the rest of this on fast forward as I color in the rest of the wreath. Here are the finished results for our coloring with Distress watercolor pencils. Now it's time to go back in and add our second layer of Distress Archival Black Soot. So just making sure all of the magnets are in place, and we are going to add ink to the stamp. And this will bring back in all the detail that might have gotten a little bit covered up when we were coloring. So I'm just going to tap the ink on. And if we don't get good coverage on the first stamping, that's okay. We can always go back and stamp again. That is the beauty of the Tonic Tim Holtz stamping platform. Okay. Ink looks pretty good. So just move this around and bring that down. And we'll just give the camera a quick little readjust. There. Okay, and as always, good firm pressure. And if the stamping isn't quite perfect, that's okay. We can always go back and add more ink. All right, let's see how that came out. Perfect. So we've got all our detail back. So I'm very happy with this. We're just going to take this out from here, and I am going to dry it off quickly with the Ranger heat tool, just so that when we go to fussy cut this, I don't have any surprises and have any unexpected smudging. Okay, I'll just take the platform. We will set that aside. Now I'm going to quickly bring in the heat tool and give this a quick dry. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and fussy cut out this wreath. And for fussy cutting, my favorite scissors are the Tonic Tim Holtz Mini Snips. So we're just going to fussy cut a little bit of this together, and then we will put the rest of it on fast forward. So we have nice bold lines that are going to be super easy to follow. And we're just going to work our way around our really red ribbon done in lumberjack. There. Okay, let's go ahead and put the rest of this on fast forward. And here is our completed wreath. Oh my word. The detail on this is fantastic. Little spot to clean up right here. There, quick little snip. that looks absolutely wonderful with all the detail. Even those little lines on the holly, that is just too cool. Alright, so now that this part is done, I'm going to be sticking some foam squares on the back to give this a little bit of dimension when we go to put it on our card. So just taking the foam squares, working my way around. Perfect. Alright, now we're going to set this aside for a moment and we're going to bring back our card base, which is all nice and dry now. And I'm going to be trimming off the edge pieces. So if we flip this over, we can see that we went off the edge a bit, but not a big deal. We're just going to take our scissors and trim that off. Just a little bit of trim work, and then we'll go in and add some details to our background. Okay, one more side to trim. All right. Okay, so now we're going to be going in with some Distress Walnut Stain Crayon, and I'm just going to be adding that to the little in-between spots. As you can see with the collage medium, the crayon just glides on here, which is really nice. So we're just going to give this a little bit more of a vintagey look by adding in those lines. And then I will go in with my fingers and smush that in. Okay, that is good. Now we'll just take a finger and smush that in. Okay, so that's good. Now the next thing that I would like to do is to add a little bit of ink around the outside of this. So we're going to take some Distress Vintage Photo ink and ink dabber, get some ink on here, and I'm going to go around the edges of the card. Just like that. Okay. So we're getting our ink on the edges. Yep, definitely liking that. I am loving the vintagey Christmas vibe. Okay, so this part is pretty much done. Next, I want to pull in our sentiment and add a little bit of color around the edges. So I'm going to be using one of the Baseboard sentiment pieces, and let's go with this one. Alright, so getting some ink and just inking up the edges, because otherwise it's just kind of plain and not as interesting. So there we go. That is all nicely inked now, and we'll just set that aside. And I wanted to do a little bit more with the card base. I want to add a bit of a border to it. So I'm going to take some tape and I'm going to cut this in half. So for that, I'm going to be using the big tonic scissors. So I'm just going to line that up and carefully cut. Good. And we'll put the first piece down here. Oh, it's actually a little long. Interesting. Not a big deal. Just take that and rip off a little bit of the edge. Okay. And now I'm going to roughly measure going the other way. Yeah, just about there. And again, I'll take the scissors and cut this in half. So we're just lining this up and cutting that down the middle, because otherwise that particular piece of tape is going to be too wide. That's okay. We can easily fix that. And then we'll just take that and line that up here on the edge and work our way around to make a border. So I'm just going to lift this one up a little bit and readjust that. Okay, That seems pretty okay. And now the next edge over here. So this one is also a little bit long, but that's not a big deal. We can trim that off. Okay, right about here, and just rip that there. Turning again. And we'll add this part in. Oh, I think I got the wrong piece. Well, that is easy enough to fix. Just swap those pieces around and I can put that back together. Okay. So this one goes here. Bring that up the edge and I can reattach that. Good. And then this comes across. Alright, and I decided that I wanted to add a second border piece, and it's going to be on the inside of this part. So I found some older Tim Holtz label tape, and this seemed like a great time to use some of that up. So we're going to take this and kind of overlay here. And then we'll just have the little edges poking out. I think. No, you know what? I'm changing my mind. We're going to go in with some stripes instead. I think that's going to be a better match. So if I can just find the end of this tape. Ah, there it is. Let's see how that looks. We put that down here and run that across. Yeah, you know what? I am liking that a lot better. Even with the two contrasting patterns, it kind of looks neat. All right, let's run with it. And then we'll just turn that this way and run it back along here. Huh. I'm kind of surprised. I actually really like this. All right. Rip that off, turn, and add. Oh, I like that. Sometimes when you're crafting, you think you're doing one thing and then you change your mind and you get an even more interesting result with something else. Cool. Okay, so just putting down this one last piece of tape and that completes our double washi tape border. Yeah, I am really liking that. Huh. Okay. So next, let's move that stuff off to the side and it's time to bring in our wreath. So we're just going to quickly take the backings off the foam squares and then we will stick our wreath down. Okay, that is good. All right, now we just need to position the wreath. Right about there should be good. Okay, and next, let's place our sentiment. Yeah, you know what? I think I'm going to put that right in the center. Not my usual go-to spot for a sentiment, but that really works. And then we're going to add in a few droplets on the corner. Okay, so let's go ahead and add some Collage medium there. And then we'll add our finishing touches. So just give that a quick shake. Make sure we've got some Collage medium going. There we go. Adding it to the baseboard sentiment, and we're going to put that right across the wreath. I am really surprised that I like this because normally I do not put my sentiments in the exact middle of a project, but today it seems to be working quite well. Okay, so I also have some of the Tim Holtz Idea-ology droplets. I'm absolutely crazy about these. They have been making their way onto almost every card that I've made so far this holiday making season. And for the corners, I want to get some of the white pieces. These big white ones are going to be just right. So I'm just going to put one on each corner. And then I'll go in with a drop of glue. And our card will be completed. Wow. I'm really happy this card came together so well. I'm really loving the colors and the composition and all of the different patterns that we have going. Really, I'm not typically that into pattern, but today I am loving it. Okay, so we'll just go around and add a dot of glue for each corner. That'll just cover up some of our washi tape ends. rotate. Another drop here. That's looking good. And the last drop goes over here. And this is our completed card. Wow, I really can't get over the detail on the wreath. That is so cool. All right, so I'm going to bring you in for a closer look at this, and that wraps up our project. Thank you so much for joining me here today at the Crafty Corner. I have had so much fun with the creation of this card, and the design of this card was inspired by our challenge this week over at the Funkie Junkie Inspiration Ave. This week we are featuring Stampers Anonymous products by Tim Holtz. So of course I had to pull in stamp set CMS 458 department store. The detail on this wreath is amazing and I couldn't wait to play with it. And we also were able to slip in a little bit of lumberjack. How great is that? We finally have a really, really good red. If you would like to join in the creative fun, hashtag your products with the hashtag #TheFunkieJunkie. That way we can see all of your wonderful creative makes over on Instagram and Facebook. So, until next time, happy crafting.